Hello, 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 hello. Well, I've got nobody here. So, what I'm doing is I've contacted the creator of a video that I watched called Exploring Hidden Liverpool. And the creator is I don't know, I can't remember. Yeah, the creator is Rob's London. So go and have a look at their channel. Give them a like and if you really like his stuff, subscribe because they're very nice. I asked him and he said yes. Which was very good of him. So I watched this and I thought, hang on a minute. This went up 12 days ago. And me being a paranoid scouser, I thought, you've been watching my channel. Yeah. You'll understand why. So I'm still on my own at the moment. I'll just wait a couple more minutes. Hello, Blue. Thank you. Looks like you've got the show all to yourself. Everybody else is probably still asleep. Oh, hello, Kieran. Thank you very much. Hello, Excelsiors. Hey up, it's a stream. Hi, Jan. Hi, Wolvo. What's all this then? This is me not being able to get out and do my own. So I asked very nicely, and the gentleman said yes. So there you go. And Jan's having trouble sleeping by the look of it. Oh, you've just woke up from a nap. So yeah, I can't get out and do my own. So hello, Acro. So I'm stealing with permission, I suppose you can call it. So if any of you have watched any of my content, you'll understand why I found this rather interesting. I'd have caught the stream earlier, but I was asleep. I know you were asleep, Wolvo, because it's time difference and all that. Prezi says, "Well, I got told to be here, so I'm here." Well done, you. Hi, Kieran. So as I was saying, I'll start it off. It's only going to be, 28 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes tops. Hello, Logman. Hear the video.
Hello, and thanks for stopping by. If you're familiar with British landmarks, I'm sure you've already noticed that I'm currently standing outside the Royal Liver Building.
Can you hear the man talking? Oh, good.
One of the most iconic sites in the city of Liverpool.
Good. No, I asked his permission, and it's there
Opened
that
in
he had me ask
1911,
permission.
the Liver Building is topped by two statues of the mythical liver birds, one gazing out towards the sea and the other inland, which, according to tradition, enables the pair to keep a protective eye over both sailors and their families back home. Although some locals joke that the bird pointing towards the city is in fact checking to see whether or not the pubs are open. I love Liverpool. It's easily one of my favourite cities, a place packed with bold architecture and a rich, profound industrial history.
No, he's not. Jan.
Plus, of course, it's blessed the world with some of the best pop music ever known. Above all, though, it's the Liverpudlians themselves, the Scousers, who truly make this city. They're a great bunch of people, and Liverpool is, by far, one of...
Anybody know who that is? Any guesses? This is inside Lime Street Station. Doddy. Nope. It's Ken Dodd. Sir Ken Dodd, apparently.
one of the friendliest places in Britain. And if you're wondering where the term Scouser originates from, by the way, well, stay tuned, as I'll be explaining that a little later. Anyway, in this video, I'd like to take you on a trip around this great city and show you some of its hidden corners and lesser known sites, places related to transport, war, architecture, and much, much more, which can be easily missed if you're a visitor. And yes, naturally, we will be seeing something of the Beatles.
Oh God, never mind.
A good place to begin our journey is at St John's Beacon, also known as Radio City Tower, a 453 feet, or 138 metres, tall structure on Houghton Street, which offers a public viewing gallery, perfect for an excellent bird's eye view of the city.
I'll have to go up there one day. Get my own footage.
St John's Beacon opened in 1969, and like the old post office tower, now the BT Tower in London, it once boasted a revolving restaurant. Although sadly this closed in the early 1980s, its final incarnation being a Buck Rogers themed burger joint.
Right, come on Brits, name the TV show. Come on, you British people, you should know this. Come on. You know it. Come on. What's the name of the show? Not the catchphrase. That's it. Acro Dave, boys from the Black Stuff. Yozoos.
Back down on the ground, let's head now to James Street, which is just across from Liverpool's waterfront. This distinctive red and white striped building, which stands at 30 James Street, is known as Albion House. It was designed in the 1890s by Richard Norman Shaw, the same architect responsible for the second incarnation of the Great Scotland Yard Police Headquarters in London. As you can see, the two buildings are remarkably similar. Today, Albion House serves as a hotel, although it was initially commissioned as the headquarters for the White Star Line, the shipping company who, famously, owned the RMS Titanic. It was for this reason that the Titanic, which sank in April 1912, was registered in Liverpool, hence the city's name being emblazoned upon the ill-fated ship's stern. And in the immediate aftermath of the disaster, it was from Albion House that a list of all of those known to have perished was read out, this being done so from one of these balconies, as officials feared they'd be mobbed if they set foot outside. Today, models of various ships, including the Titanic, are displayed in several windows at Albion House. Nearby, opposite the Liver building, there's another Titanic link, and a very profound one at that. It's called the Memorial to the Heroes of the Marine Engine Room.
I want to know
This
how
monument
early.
was put in place to honour the 244 engineers.
I want to know how early these people get up, because every time I go down here, there's hundreds of people. Because just behind this statue is the cruise liner dock where the cruise liners come in. So there's like tourists everywhere. So they must be up at like 4 o'clock in the morning to do the filming.
Namely men who worked in the ship's sweltering engine room, who died in a disaster, many of who had close ties with Liverpool. The memorial is made from granite and bears shrapnel damage from the Liverpool Blitz, more of which later. Further Titanic-related artefacts can be viewed in the Merseyside Maritime Museum, which is free to enter and located at the Royal Albert Dock. Items here included this life jacket worn by a survivor, a nameplate from a lifeboat, and White Star branded crockery, which was salvaged from the wreck.
Most of them are stills, but
there's also this impressive model of the Titanic, which was put together by the shipbuilders Harland and Wolff in Belfast, at the same time the full-scale ship was being constructed in the early 1910s. Another famous ship, which, like the Titanic, was registered in Liverpool and also suffered a tragic end, was the RMS Lusitania, which was owned by the Cunard Line, who also maintained a large office in the city.
Yeah, the Cunard building. The Cunard, and it's famous for Taylor Swift.
The Lusitania was torpedoed off of the coast of Ireland on the 7th of May 1915, 8 months into World War I, whilst en route from New York to Liverpool. 1,195 lives were lost in the atrocity. In 1982, one of the Lusitania's 4 propellers was recovered from the seabed, and it's now displayed on Liverpool's waterfront. As with the Titanic, items from the Lusitania can also be viewed inside the Maritime Museum, including this lifebuoy, deck chair, and cushion. As the docks and connections with famous shipping companies demonstrate, Liverpool has a long maritime history. One aspect of this, starting in the 1830s, was the establishment of a direct trading route with Shanghai, which in turn led many Chinese sailors to settle in Liverpool. As such, Liverpool is home to Europe's oldest Chinatown, an area which is marked by this huge ceremonial arch on Nelson Street, the largest of its kind outside of China. It was also the presence of sailors, European ones in this case, which led to the creation of the term Scouser to describe Liverpudlians. You see, scouse derives from lobscouse, a stew made with beef or lamb, and various vegetables, most notably red cabbage, which originated around Norway and Denmark.
I just want to clarify there, you don't make it with the red cabbage goes on the side, and you dip a bit of both in, kind of thing. So you have a spoonful of scouse and then a bit of pickled cabbage. Quite a lot of us have beetroot as well. It's the vinegar to clean the grease off because it's usually made with lamb.
Sailors from those countries brought the recipe with them, and the dish quickly became popular in Liverpool. Scouse stew is very tasty, and there are plenty of pubs and restaurants around the city which serve it. If you're vegetarian, there's a meatless version too. It's called blind scouse. Another interesting link with maritime history can be found in a rather unlikely place. Anfield Stadium, home to Liverpool FC. Here, close to the Kop, you can see this tall flagpole, which in fact used to be a ship's mast. The ship it belonged to being Isambard Kingdom Brunel's gigantic SS Great Eastern. After being launched from the Isle of Dogs in London in 1858, the SS Great Eastern led a troubled and relatively short life, although it was notable for laying the first transatlantic telegraph cable between Britain and America. Once its time was up, the huge ship was towed to the River Mersey for breaking up, although before this commenced, it spent time as a mobile advertising.
Excelsior says, ridiculous, running a passenger ship that big in wartime. Not known for their 3-point turns. I know, Wolvo. If you're a vegetarian, there's a meatless option. It's called Get the Fuck Out of My Place.
Display for Liverpool's Lewis's department store. Fortunately, this mast was saved. Liverpool's other football team is, of course, Everton, who play close by at Goodison Park, although they'll soon be moving to a new ground at Bramley-Moore Dock. It was in fact Everton who first acquired the SS Great Eastern's flagpole in 1891, the club having been the first to use Anfield before a disagreement led to the founding of Liverpool FC in 1892. If you look at Everton's crest, you'll notice it features the image of a small tower topped with a cone-shaped roof. This building is the Everton Lockup, also known as Prince Rupert's Tower, which you can see on Everton Brow. This distinctive little building, which dates from 1787, was built as a small jail, where drunks and petty criminals could be held overnight before being taken to a magistrate in the morning.
I've done the video. I've got to do a better
As well as its long-held connections with seafaring, Liverpool has also played a major role in the history of railway transport, it having been the western terminus of the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, which, having begun operating in September 1830, was the world's first true intercity line. You can see this beautiful old locomotive, the Lion, which dates from 1838 and was built for service on the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, in the Museum of Liverpool, which, like the Maritime Museum, is free to enter. In later life, the Lion was used in the 1953 Ealing comedy, The Titsfield Thunderbolt. Liverpool's very first terminal on the pioneering Liverpool and Manchester Railway was Crown Street, which was used for just 6 years before the line was extended to the current station at Lime Street.
And I did a video on that as well.
Today, the site of the old Crown Street terminal is covered by a park, at the northern end of which sits this large brick tower. This structure is in fact an old ventilation shaft.
That drunk tank, it's a bit small for Liverpool, isn't it? Well, yeah, but there was a couple of them. There was another one in Wavertree.
And it was constructed for the Wapping Tunnel, a branch of the railway which was created to carry freight down to Wapping Dock, an incredible piece of engineering for the time. The extension of the passenger line to Lime Street required a major cutting to be forged from Edge Hill, which trains to and from Lime Street still pass through to this day. This was a major project, and much of the work was overseen by a contractor named William Mackenzie. William died in 1851, and his tomb can be found in the churchyard of St Andrews on Rodney Street.
Okay, I'll say.
As you can see, being shaped like a pyramid, it looks rather unconventional. William Mackenzie was a keen gambler, and according to Liverpool legend, he requested that his final resting place be designed in this manner so that when the time came, he could be entombed in it whilst sitting upright at a card table complete with a winning set of cards tucked into his dead hand. This is all nonsense, of course. In reality, he's buried beneath the pyramid in the traditional manner.
And there's your wigwam.
Returning to the railways, we can see several other examples of disused railway architecture dotted around Liverpool. There's this large, old tunnel portal, for example, located between Sefton Street and Riverside Drive, which once formed part of the Liverpool Overhead Railway. When opened in 1893, this overhead line was the world's first elevated electric railway. It ran alongside Liverpool's docks, and came to be nicknamed the Dockers' Umbrella.
And not only was it the first electrified elevated railway in the world, it was the first electrified escalators in the world to a train station. So yeah, it's a shame they have thought about putting it back again, but there's too many insurance. The insurance would be too high for certain reasons, shall we say?
Because if you're on foot, the overhead tracks provided handy shelter from the rain. Sadly, the system was closed down and dismantled in the late 1950s. Although you can see a preserved car from the overhead railway, along with other related artefacts, in the Museum of Liverpool.
I've also done a video on that. You can actually sit in that and it moves.
Not too far from the old tunnel entrance is the Brunswick Ramp. Dating from 1866, this once formed part of a bridge which crossed over the original Brunswick station. Its main purpose being to provide a route for the many horses which once pulled carts through this area. Because of this, a horse trough was incorporated, and there are even 2 little dog bowls as well. Nowadays, since most of the bridge has long since vanished, the Brunswick Ramp is essentially a road to nowhere.
I also did a video on this. I think he's been watching my channel. I really do.
Something which tends to get overlooked when it comes to Liverpool is that, technically, the city has its own underground railway, as a number of deep subterranean stations serve both Liverpool city centre and parts of Birkenhead. These underground stations are Moorfields, Lime Street, Liverpool Central, James Street, Hamilton Square, and Conway Park.
That's over the water.
All of which come under the wider Merseyrail network.
That's over
Out
the
of these,
side.
James Street and Hamilton Square are of particular historical interest, as together they represent the world's oldest deep-level subway stations.
This I didn't know.
Although the world's first underground line, the Metropolitan Railway, had begun operating in London in 1863, that line is relatively shallow, having been built just below street level with the so-called cut-and-cover method, largely due to the fact that it was initially designed with steam locomotives in mind. James Street and Hamilton Square, meanwhile, are far deeper, serving opposite ends of a rail tunnel beneath the River Mersey, which lies at a depth of between 77 to 113 feet, or 23 to 34 metres. This line was forged by the Mersey Railway and opened for service in February 1886.
Jan, is that underneath the tunnel still open? That links Liverpool to New Brighton. I can remember going through with the parents when I was a kid. I don't know, to be honest. I know it goes. We've got a road tunnel that goes over comes out in Birkenhead, and then you could drive down to New Brighton. But this train goes alongside the road tunnel or underneath the road tunnel. Yeah, it goes underneath the road tunnel. Hi, Liam.
4 years before, deep level stations first appeared in London with the City and South London Railway. Like the early Metropolitan Railway, the Mersey Railway also relied upon steam locomotives at first, and a lower system of mechanical ventilation was incorporated,
Yeah,
its
but no
didn't
one
prove
wants
to
to
be very
sing So
effective,
Subway,
meaning the tunnel was often
trust the
choked with smoke,
Mersey.
so much so that many passengers would choose to take the ferry instead. This problem was fixed at around the turn of the 20th century, when the line was electrified. James Street in particular is well worth a look, as one of the platforms there is fitted out with vintage signage and posters. The station also has a discreet entrance tucked into the India buildings on Water Street, which isn't for the faint-hearted, as it involves a very steep climb. Another notable tunnel in Liverpool is the Queensway Tunnel, which was built between 1925 and 1934 to carry motor traffic between Liverpool and the Wirral Peninsula.
Doesn't look like that now.
The Queensway Tunnel is 2 miles long, and for 14 years, it's held the record for being the world's longest road tunnel. You can see an original, decommissioned Art Deco toll booth, once used for taking payments at the tunnel entrance, perched beside the large ventilation shaft at George's Dock. And just around the corner, there's a memorial dedicated to the 17 men who died during the tunnel's construction.
Vintage signage and posters, and great treaty. Natural.
At first glance, you may be inclined to assume that this building, the stylish Oriel Chambers on Water Street, dates from the early 20th century. However, it's significantly older than that, having been built all the way back in 1864.
Hi, Fanta.
At the time, the Oriel was ultra-modern and was the first structure to use a metal-framed glass curtain wall, an innovation which would later play a key role in the development of American skyscrapers. It would seem the Oriel wasn't too popular when it was first unveiled back in the 1860s, though. One review at the time claimed the building would be depressing were it not ludicrous.
So, I don't know if you heard that properly. That building was built with a metal frame, and then the brickwork and glasswork was put up. And that was before the 1900s. That's phenomenal building work, that is. Sorry.
Just a few doors up from the Oriel stands the former St. Martin's Bank. It was to here, shortly after the outbreak of World War II, and with the threat of invasion looming, that the Bank of England sent most of Britain's gold reserve. The bars were lowered through this hatch for safekeeping, the ultimate goal being to get them shipped to Canada. Another example of precautions taken in the face of a potential Nazi invasion can be found on Stallbridge Avenue in Mossley Hill.
I found this
These concrete blocks, nicknamed Dragon's Teeth, were placed here in 1940 as a means of preventing enemy vehicles from taking a railway embankment, which of course would have been a key strategic point. It's likely the traps were placed here by the Home Guard, aka the affectionately nicknamed Dad's Army. During the Second World War, Liverpool played a vital role in keeping the nation supplied, for it was the main port of arrival for ships serving on the North Atlantic convoys. Those ships that made it, that is, for during the Battle of the Atlantic, some 3,500 merchant vessels were sunk. The Maritime Museum has some interesting items related to the convoys. This lamp would have been used to signal across to other crews. Whilst this object is known as a Mackworth fog buoy, it would have been towed from a ship's stern in thick fog to prevent collisions from other vessels sailing close behind. The nerve centre, which oversaw those brave convoys, was right here in Liverpool, at the Western Approaches Command Bunker. Today, this fascinating site is open to the public as a museum, and it's well worth a visit.
If you've got the money.
The entrance is on Rumford Street, and inside you'll discover a time capsule. For most of the bunker remains just as it appeared when wound down in 1945.
Is my voice better now?
As you can see from this vast map, it was from here that convoys were monitored and enemy U-boats tracked. The pins moved around on this board would have dictated the fates of many, including the appalling losses suffered by both sides in the conflict. Much of the western approach's bunker lies beneath the grand square known as Exchange Flags, and here, hiding in plain sight, there's a ventilation shaft for the complex. It's tucked beneath this monument to Lord Nelson, which dates from 1813, and was shifted upwards in the late 1930s to accommodate the bunker. By the way, if you examine the Nelson monument closely, you'll see it contains a rather chilling figure. This skeleton, placing a bony hand upon the naval hero as a means of signifying death.
I had a visitor from America, and we went to here, and he was taking pictures of this. And I said to him, "You can't take pictures of that." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because, no, look, you can't actually see it on this side, but the men are in chains." And he was like, "Oh, are they slaves?" And I burst out laughing. I said, "No, they're French soldiers. Take as many pictures as you want." Jan, it's not my friend. It's another creator. I asked his permission, and he said I could use it because I can't get out at the moment.
Due to its importance in the Second World War, Merseyside was heavily bombed, resulting in the deaths of several thousand civilians. A stark reminder of this period is the shell of St Luke's Church, on the corner of Berry Street and Lee Street. Dating from 1832, St Luke's was gutted in an air raid, which occurred just after midnight on the 6th of May 1941. Today the church serves as a memorial and arts venue, and in the surrounding garden, you can see this emotive artwork, which commemorates the Christmas truce and football match, which began on Christmas Eve 1914, just a few months into World War I. A few years before the Second World War erupted, Britain bore witness to the abdication crisis, in which King Edward VIII gave up the throne in order to pursue a life with Wallis Simpson, which, in hindsight, was likely a good thing, considering his political leanings.
So, every single other video that I've watched on Liverpool has a certain thing missing that I've done on my channel. And this is the thing, this is the one where I thought, you've been watching my channel, you have. This particular section coming up. Can anyone guess what it might be? Liam, no, I'm not feeling particularly better, but thank you. So, Edward VIII.
Due to this, Edward VIII served as monarch for less than a year, which makes this postbox, erected on the corner of Canning Street during his brief reign in 1936,
Fanta.
very rare indeed. Since the 1960s, it's been impossible to mention Liverpool without evoking the Beatles. The origins of the Fab Four can be traced to St Peter's Church in Walton, for it was here, at a summer fete held on the 6th of July 1957, that 16-year-old John Lennon first befriended 15-year-old Paul McCartney. It's also in the churchyard of St Peter's that you'll find a gravestone dedicated to the Rigby family, one of the names on it being listed as one Eleanor Rigby, who died in 1939, aged just 44. Eleanor Rigby is of course the name of one of the Beatles' best-known songs, and although Paul McCartney maintains that he made the name up when working on it in 1966, he has conceded that there may have been some subconscious influence, given how familiar he and John were with St Peter's.
I will try to be there one day.
Back in central Liverpool, on Stanley Street, there sits a melancholy statue of an imagined Eleanor Rigby, which the early rock and roll star, Tommy Still, sculpted as a gift for the city in 1982. The modest homes in which each of the Beatles spent their formative years can still be seen around Liverpool. Paul McCartney lived at 20 Forthlin Road in Allerton. The family moved here in 1955. George Harrison was born here at 12 Arnold Grove, Wavertree in 1943. The family moved to Upton Green in 1950, and a plaque was unveiled at George's Arnold Grove home in May 2024. Ringo Starr lived at 10 Admiral Grove in Toxteth and remained here until the Beatles' career went stratospheric in 1963. At the end of Ringo's old road, on the corner with High Park Street, you can see this huge Beatles mural, complete with the yellow submarine, the dreadful flying glove, and the menacing Chief Blue Meanie.
I can fast forward, Fanta.
John Lennon, meanwhile, lived at 251 Menlove Avenue in Walton, also remaining here until 1963. It was here that Please Please Me was written. John's former home was purchased by his widow, Yoko Ono, in 2002, and she then donated it to the National Trust. Sadly, it is also on Menlove Avenue, on the 15th of July 1958, that John's mother, Julia, was killed after being struck by a car, and it's now...
Yeah, TJ's gone very quiet, hasn't she? I'm just going to comment on Blue's things there. He said you'd think they'd have bigger houses. So they're all working class people, apparently. So Paul McCartney lived in a council estate. George Harrison lived in a 2 up, 2 down. Ringo Starr lived in a 2 up, 2 down. And they're all in quite busy areas, full areas. I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Terraced houses, close-fitting, working men's houses. Whereas John Lennon lived in a rich house. It was classed as being rich if you lived where he lived.
Now become tradition every year on the anniversary of John Lennon's murder, which occurred in New York on the 8th of December 1980, to leave his old bedroom light on throughout the night.
And they're not
If we return to Paul McCartney's former home, there's a point of interest to be found very close to here.
And I've done a video
This
on this.
is a so-called Robin Hood stone, an ancient monolith which is believed to date from the Neolithic or Bronze Age. Until the 1920s, this area was all fields, and the stone was located just under 200 feet from its present location. It was shifted here in 1928, as the surrounding homes were being built. An unusual feature of the stone are these long grooves, which run along either side of it. It's been speculated these were used for sharpening axes or arrowheads, hence the Robin Hood name. And more gruesomely, it's been claimed that the grooves were used by druids for channeling blood.
Yeah.
In reality, though, the marks are most likely a curious natural quirk. Another ancient landmark in Liverpool is the mighty Allerton Oak, which stands in what's now called the Stones Park. The Allerton Oak is said to be around 1,000 years old, although more recent estimates put its age at between 500 and 550 years. Two alternative names for it are the Law Oak and the Court Oak, as it's believed the space around the tree was once used as a venue for the manor courts, a body which often met outdoors to dispense local justice. In World War I, it became common for soldiers heading off to the front line to take leaves and acorns from the Allerton Oak, both as a good luck charm and a reminder of home. And this was a tradition which was repeated in World War II. A good place to finish our exploration of Liverpool is at Sefton Park, a large and very beautiful Victorian green space, which is sited just south of the city centre.
Huge, massive park.
Here you can see the Palm House, which dates from the 1890s, along with this bandstand, which is believed to have provided the Beatles with inspiration for Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Yeah, Trini.
Sefton Park is also home to a replica of the Shaftesbury Memorial Fountain, the twin of which you'll find in the middle of London's Piccadilly Circus. And as Liverpool's version sits in a quiet, leafy park, this one is a lot easier to appreciate.
You can get up close and personal with it if you want.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this exploration of Liverpool and would love to hear your own thoughts on this great city. Are you a Liverpudlian yourself? If so, what other historic sites or places of interest would you recommend visiting? And perhaps most importantly, which pub or restaurant do you think offers the best Scouse stew? Please.
So is there anything on there that you'd like me to go over? Or do a video on myself when I'm up and running? Running? Oh, don't say running. When I'm back to some resemblance of fitness, is there anything that you'd like me to do a video on? And Jan says, that was good, but I always enjoy yours, and I hope you get out again soon. So do I, Jan. Thank you. There was another old tree in... I'm not doing John Lennon. Behave. All the museums, I think, most of the museums are free in Liverpool. And there's some really interesting stuff in some of them. But I would like to get up St. John's Tower, because I'm presuming there's a lift that goes all the way up to the top. Thank you, Acro Dave. Thank you. He says, as long as this doesn't get involved with the Beatles, I'm easy. I'd like to do this, but it'd take me too long. I'd like to walk through this. This is the between the stations. Another channel done it, and it is one hell of a walk. I suppose I could put my skates on. Put your skates on and let Rex pull you around. No. Yes, Jan, it's the underground from St. James Station. Titanic, yeah. I know we went on a disco ferry on... Oh, that was the Royal Iris.
Interesting items related to the convoys. This lamp would have been used to signal across to other crews. Whilst this object is known as a Mackworth fog buoy, it would have been towed from a ship's stern. The nerve centre, which oversaw those brave convoys, was right here in Liverpool, at the Western Approaches Command Bunker.
So the Western Approaches has got a big sign outside. It's got chevrons painted round the corner. So if you're on one road, it's not Dale Street. It's not Moorfields. I can't even remember the name of the road now. It's got chevrons pointing you towards the front door. And it says secret bunker. not very secret at all, or something like that. And they do tours. I'd like to do the tour of it because it's just seeing little bits of it inside of it. You obviously don't get to walk around the tables and up the ladders and everything like that, but having the tour done and being explained, I'd like to do that. I've done a little bit on the ship canal. I did a bit because where the ship canal ended, it's all been built over now, but there's two canal cottages still there, right in the middle of all this new buildings and all things like that. Um, but unfortunately, the ship canal's not a safe place for me to walk along. Mario, no, this isn't in the Maritime Museum. This is a museum of its own. It's the Western Approaches. It's literally the hub of the war, where they were, when you see on TVs and they're pushing little boats around on a table. Well, they were doing it. That green splodge is the sea, and they were pushing boats around and submarines around, and that ladder would swing so that the women could climb the ladder and put a pin in to say that's where a boat is. Ever done anything to do with them? Especially when the tall ships come in. When the tall ships come in, I'm going down there come hell or high water. They haven't been in since I've been doing me channel. But if you do ever come to Liverpool, as I say, the museums are free, most of them. This one's not, that unfortunately. When they do, we'll have to meet up and go see them. Yeah, brilliant. Oh my lord. Oh, hang on. Oh lord, my brain was reading the green part as land and the white as water for some reason, and I was thinking that's some really interesting land formation patterns there. Well, it still is, but the white's the land. Because if you look at the back, Great Britain's in white. Oh, Wolvo, pay attention. So I am going to leave it there because I can smell my tea being cooked. Scan to the right. Who, Wolvo or me? I do hate this delay business. Yep. Okie dokie. So thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate everyone coming. So I'm going to sign off now. And thank you very much for being here. See you soon. Bye.